So you think you know about Hamburg? The rain, the cold people, the grey harbor. Yeah, no, you're wrong. But not to worry, most people are. Let us bust some myths. These are the 10 things that most people, and maybe even you, get totally wrong about Hamburg. 1. Hamburg is so rainy. That's what people think, right? Hamburg, isn't it always raining there? Actually, no. The truth is, Hamburg gets less annual rainfall than Cologne, Munich, or New York City. The key difference is it rains more often, but in smaller doses. Short showers, drizzle, or overnight rain, not constant downpours. Hamburg weather is like a teenager. Unpredictable, a little dramatic, but rarely purely nasty. So don't cancel your Hamburg trip because the weather app shows a little rain. Most of the time, you'll be sipping your Astra 50 minutes later in the sun. 2. Hamburg is cold. That's what people think, right? It must be freezing up there. I mean, it's practically Scandinavia. The reality is this: Hamburg sits at 53.5 degrees north. That's the same latitude as Edmonton in Canada, or almost as far up north as Moscow. But the key difference is we have the Gulf Stream and the North Sea, and they keep us cozy and warm. Even in winter, temperatures rarely drop below freezing. In comparison, the average temperature in January in Edmonton is minus 11 degrees Celsius. Here, it's just about zero. The last severe winter we had with weeks of freezing temperatures was 2011. 3. People from Hamburg are so cold and distant. What people think is this: you will never make friends in Hamburg. People are so distant up north. Translation: they didn't small talk with me for 10 minutes in line at the bakery. Hamburgers may not be over the top chatty, but that doesn't make them cold. They're just reserved at first. Once you're in, you're really in. You get honesty, loyalty, and that dry, sardonic humor that's truly Hamburg. But here's the kicker: most of the people here aren't actually from Hamburg. Only about 30 to 35% of people in the city have been born here. We have large communities of people from Turkey, from Afghanistan, from Poland, from Portugal, from Iran, you name it. And add to that all the Germans from Bavaria or North Rhine-Westphalia or Berlin who move here for university or jobs. You might not get a hug from your neighbor in the first 5 minutes, but they will hold the door, give directions, and let you live your life. Once you connect, you find people who are deeply generous and grounded. So hamburgers aren't cold, they're just on low heat until you prove you're not annoying. Number 4, Hamburg is a great port city. That's what people think. Hamburg, isn't that just cranes and cargo ships and concrete? A little bit like Duisburg, just with water? Yep, Hamburg is a port city. In fact, Germany's largest port and Europe's third largest. But Hamburg is also one of the greenest and most beautiful cities in Europe. Nearly 9% of the city is water, lakes, canals, rivers, with more bridges than Venice and Amsterdam combined. There are more than 2,500 public green spaces, including huge parks like the Stadtpark, Plantenblom, and the Alster Meadows. The Elbstrand at Övelgönne, that's an actual beach with sand and container ships gliding by. And then there's Speicherstadt and Hafen City, historic brick and modern architecture, a UNESCO World Heritage Site meets slick urban planning. Number 5, Hamburg is conservative. So because it's an old trading city, it must be posh and old money, right? Not at all. Yeah, Hamburg has money, thanks to centuries of trade, shipping, and merchant wealth. But politically and culturally, it's always been very progressive. The current government is pushing bold climate and mobility policies like car-free zones, expanded cycling infrastructure, support for ride pooling, and autonomous driving. 6. Hamburg is overshadowed by Berlin. Please. Hamburg does not try to out-Berlin Berlin, and it totally doesn't have to. Hamburg is home to Germany's biggest publishing houses and a massive music history. I mean, Beatles, anyone? The Elbphilharmonie isn't just a concert hall, it's an icon. The Reeperbahn Festival is one of Europe's best showcase festivals, attracting talent scouts from across the globe. Hamburg is confident without being loud, it's international without screaming about it, and it doesn't need hype, it has soul. Reeperbahn is just brothels. In fact, that's maybe 10% of it, if that. Yes, the Reeperbahn has red light places. It always has. But to reduce it to that, it's like saying that Berlin is just techno or Paris is just the Eiffel Tower. It's not just inaccurate, it's lazy. The Reeperbahn has theaters and a musical venue. It has legendary music clubs like the Molotov, the Docks, the Grünspan, the Große Freiheit. And yeah, it hosts the Reeperbahn Festival. Number 8. Hamburg, because it's in Germany, doesn't have good food. So people sometimes think that food in Germany is all boiled potatoes, sausages and sauerkraut. That's usually people who have never been north of Bavaria. In fact, Hamburg eats well, very well, because it's a port city, open to the world, and its food reflects that. Here are some typical Hamburg dishes. Labskaus, that weird-looking but tasty mash of corned beef, potatoes, beetroot, topped with a fried egg and pickled herring. Ugly? Yes. Delicious? Also yes. Finkenwerder Scholle, fried plaice with bacon. Say no more. Franzbrötchen, like a cinnamon roll's buttery cousin, invented here and raved about by dozens or hundreds of YouTube travel vloggers. Rote Grütze, berry compote with vanilla sauce, nostalgic and perfect. But of course there's also the massive international scene. Turkish, Afghan, Vietnamese, Portuguese and East African communities make Hamburg a global food hotspot. We have an Eritrean restaurant here. Tons of immigrants from the seafaring world settled here and they brought their foods with them. There is also the local hero, the Fischbrötchen, a bread roll with herring, onions and pickles. Simple, salty and perfect. Number 9. Hamburg is only nice in summer. Here's the reality. Of course, Hamburg is gorgeous in summer. But the other seasons have character, mood and yes, beauty. If you're only here for the sun, you're missing the soul of the city. Let's break it down. Autumn gives you golden leaves and all the big parks. It gives you cozy cafes, early sunsets over the harbor, and the fog rolling in over the Elbe. Like a German film noir with good coffee. In winter, okay, it's not Vienna, but it's Hamburg cozy. In December, there are Christmas markets everywhere. Classy, boozy, and fun. You can walk forever without sweating, with no tourists blocking your Fischbrötchen view. In spring, you have cherry blossoms along the Alster, you have first beers outside, and people re-emerging like it's post-apocalypse just with scarves. Finally, chapter 10, Hamburg invented the hamburger. I mean, it sounds logical, right? City called Hamburg, food called hamburger, case closed. So did we? Actually, no. But it's also not totally untrue. Hamburg did play a part in that. In the 19th century, thousands of German immigrants sailed from Hamburg to the United States, especially to New York. On board and in the port, many ate a simple chopped beef patty, seasoned, sometimes smoked or salted, often referred to as Hamburg steak. Once in America, this Hamburg-style beef evolved, thanks to some clever cooks, into something more portable. They put it between slices of bread or a bun. Boom, the hamburger. So Hamburg didn't put the patty in the bun, but it did put the patty on the boat. So that was 10 things that most people get wrong about Hamburg. 10 myths, 0 regrets. Welcome to the real Hamburg. I hope you enjoyed this video and that I will see you for the next one. Take care for now.